None of this is going to die down. A matter of fact, it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse.
So Stephen A. Smith just dropped a bombshell connecting Supreme Court voting rights decisions to rising political violence. And he's not holding back on either party. We're covering his polling data showing who Americans really blame for political chaos, plus his brutal takedown of Democratic strategic failures. Let's break this down.
Because we learned today that the Supreme Court struck down a voting map in Louisiana, and it's considered to be a devastating blow to the landmark Voting Rights Act of 1965, which favors the Republican Party.
This Louisiana ruling gutted Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which protected minority voting power for 60 years. The court essentially said states can dilute black voting strength as long as they claim it's partisan, not racial. It's the biggest rollback since Shelby County in 2013.
I was at the Washington Hilton when a shooter penetrated security, tried to get into the ballroom inside of the hotel, and they said that he wanted to go after the president, wanted to murder President Trump. What they didn't say, or at least I didn't hear people saying, was how there were protesters outside going off about everything from the Epstein files to the war in Iran and various other things that have transpired under this administration, and how they considered the media to be complicit in all of it because the media wasn't putting forth its due diligence and doing its job.
The Washington Hilton incident exposed how media criticism has reached dangerous levels. Protesters weren't just angry about policy. They viewed journalists as active participants in government deception. When media loses legitimacy, democratic institutions collapse and violence becomes the alternative.
I bring that up because in the aftermath of all of that, we have been told that we need to dial down the rhetoric, that the vitriol has got to stop, that there's no excuse for political violence, if not violence, period, that somehow, some way, this is the United States of America, is the greatest nation in the world.
The polling data coming next destroys the mainstream narrative about political violence. While establishment voices blame Trump supporters, actual Americans see Democrats and media as the primary instigators. This disconnect between elite opinion and public perception is driving the polarization crisis.
The question, whose rhetoric contributed the most to the current climate of political violence in the United States of America? This is a poll conducted by yours truly, Stephen A. Smith, on my X account. It said that Republicans, how many people think their rhetoric contributed to the most to the current climate of political violence in America? 1% said it was Republicans. 22% says it's President Trump. 33% says it's the media. 44% said it's Democrats. Either way you slice it, Democrats, combined with the media, make up over 75% as it pertains to those polled. Over 75% of the people polled blame the media and Democrats for the volatility that presently exists in this country today.
77% blaming Democrats and media combined is staggering. This isn't some fringe poll. It reflects widespread belief that the left's threat to democracy rhetoric and media amplification created the current climate. The establishment narrative has completely lost credibility with voters.
Number one, I don't want to hear that from anybody coming out of the White House, because the president's rhetoric is as despicable as anybody's. You may not use words like Nazis and fascist and stuff like that, but you've called Democrats sick. You've proclaimed them to be anti-American. You've called them worse than that on many, many, many occasions. So I don't want to hear that from the president of the United States, who in terms of engaging in decorum is one of the last things that he does. But that is not the point of me bringing it up.
The distinction matters here. Trump calls opponents sick or anti-American, typical political insults. Democrats literally call him Hitler and claim democracy will end if he wins. That existential framing justifies any response, including violence. The rhetoric scales are completely different.
The point of me bringing it up, ladies and gentlemen, is because I'm here to give you very, very, very bad news. None of this is going to die down. A matter of fact, it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. And it's going to get worse because of this ruling that has come down from the Supreme Court.
When people lose faith in electoral processes, they turn to other methods. The Supreme Court just told millions of black voters their ballots can be legally diluted. Combined with existing polarization, this creates a powder keg where political violence becomes inevitable.
I understand that partisan gerrymandering is not illegal. But I'll be damned if I don't feel this is racist. I'll be damned if I don't feel like this is a concerted effort. Yes, I understand the importance in politics of gaining favor on a partisan level. But when it ventures beyond to a point where it violates something as important as the Voting Rights Act of 1965, as a black man, it offends me.
Partisan gerrymandering targets political affiliation, legal but unsavory. Racial gerrymandering targets ethnicity, constitutionally prohibited. The Louisiana case shows how Republicans are using partisan justifications to achieve racial outcomes, crossing from normal politics into civil rights violations.
If you respect and care about, are sensitive to black people in this country, A, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about this? And B, what you gonna do about it? Midterms are coming up. And we have to understand something here before I go to break, because I'm gonna go to break after I say this.
The 2026 midterms will determine who controls redistricting after the 2030 census. Given his potential 2028 presidential run, these voting rights issues aren't abstract policy debates. They're the foundation of his political movement. This is personal and strategic.
As disgusted as I am with this ruling, as alarmed as I am with it, as much as I blame Republicans and specifically President Trump and his administration for this stuff, don't think for 1 second that it escapes me how the negligence on the left contributed to this.
Here comes the brutal honesty that separates real analysis from partisan cheerleading. Most commentators would blame only Republicans. The willingness to criticize Democratic failures while opposing Republican policies shows intellectual integrity that's rare in political commentary today.
You see, you remember Shelby County versus Holder in 2013? Y'all remember that? Remember what happened there? Because it's important.
Shelby County v. Holder gutted the Voting Rights Act's pre-clearance requirement, letting southern states change voting laws without federal approval. Obama's Justice Department lost 5-4, but that narrow loss gave hope future cases might swing differently. Not anymore.
Why do I bring that up? Because that happened when Obama was in office. Holder challenged it, of course, he lost. And we get that. But here's the biggest thing. Here's the biggest thing. And I'm going to say this before I go to break. You know, with a 5-4 majority in the court, you know what that gave us even when there was a conservative majority? Hope. Because maybe, just maybe, one vote could be swayed.
A 5-4 conservative majority meant Kennedy or Roberts might occasionally join liberals on key cases. The 6-3 majority under Biden means even if Roberts defects, conservatives still win. That mathematical reality has destroyed liberal hopes across voting rights, abortion, and regulatory power.
See, we respect her, but some of y'all revered Ruth Bader Ginsburg. You don't remember the story? You don't remember how she was approaching her 80s and she had health issues? and Obama was in office and his administration practically begged her to retire?
Ginsburg was 81 when Obama urged her retirement in 2014. She had pancreatic cancer, colon cancer, and multiple health scares. The strategic play was obvious: secure her replacement while Democrats controlled the White House and Senate. Her refusal was pure ego.
You don't remember the reports that highlighted that she refused to walk away because she wanted her a woman to select her successor, because she assumed that Hillary Rodham Clinton was going to win the 2016 election. Obama was right there. He was a Democrat in office, would have selected a liberal to the courts.
The calculation was insane. Obama nominating her replacement was guaranteed. He was president with a Democratic Senate. Clinton winning was a coin flip at best. Ginsburg chose the risky gamble over the sure thing because she wanted historic credit.
And a justice on the Supreme Court, who was a phenomenal and brilliant thinker, no doubt, allowed her personal feelings and ego to get in the way and refused to walk away so he could select her successor, so we could never find ourselves with a 6-3 majority in the court. She passed away after Hillary Rodham Clinton lost the election. Trump was the president and was able to select her successor.
This is the direct line from personal vanity to constitutional catastrophe. Ginsburg's ego gave Trump 3 Supreme Court picks instead of 1. Every liberal defeat since 2020, voting rights, abortion, gun control, traces back to her refusal to retire strategically.
And because of that, whether it's Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, and all this, the bottom line is the 6-3 majority would not have happened had she allowed Obama to select her successor. But y'all never bring that up.
Liberals lionize Ginsburg while ignoring her catastrophic miscalculation that doomed their agenda for decades. It's easier to blame Trump than acknowledge their own strategic incompetence, but accountability means facing uncomfortable truths about leadership failures.
And now here we are, finding ourselves in a situation where the country is in clear chaos, more polarized than ever, more divided than ever, more volatile than people pre-civil rights told me civil rights era was. And things don't look to be getting any better.
This connects everything. Democratic strategic failures created the 6-3 court that's now dismantling voting rights, which fuels the polarization driving political violence. The chaos isn't random, it's the predictable result of elite incompetence across both parties.